Hello everyone and welcome to this beautiful sunny day here in Stormworks where I'm going to be showing you how to sail. Now I'm probably the least qualified person to be showing you how to sail. I know mechanics, I know automotive things, I know structures, mining, engineering, all kinds of things, but I didn't grow up near the sea and I've never sailed before. But thanks to you lovely people who sent me videos, gave me tidbits of information, really got me involved, and I started to do some research and I really found an admiration for sailing. It's truly an art form. So thank you all, you know who you are, I really appreciate it. And what I've done is gathered my knowledge and I'm going to be showing you here how to use it. Now, I do know that a lot of people commented that my vessels were not really configured for sailing, and you could actually see that I readjusted the jib sail to have a pivot point here in the front versus being attached to the main mast. So hopefully that's going to help us use our two sail configuration, our main sail and our jib sail, to steer. I'll show you that in a second, but I do want to say that this video is not a comprehensive sailing guide. There are many more other videos by people who are actually sailors, who are actually qualified in this type of thing, but the one thing I do know is my vessel, and I'll be showing you how to use my vessel to steer and navigate here in Stormworks. So first things first, obviously this thing has dual V8 supercharged engines. I know sailboats don't have that, but I love my big engines, I love my supercharged engines, and you can't really fault me for wanting to make kind of a combination cruiser, especially in Stormworks where the weather can change very fast. It's nice to have a big engine, in my opinion. But if you cut down the power, then you're not using your engines. Now there are two useful features that you can do here in Stormworks that will help you also sail. Now this is a rudder, also known as a tiller in the world of sailing, and yeah, you could steer with your arrow keys like this, but if I hold Alt, I can actually set it at an angle. You can see here I'm 0.59, and even if I let go of Alt, even if I leave the steering wheel, this will remain fixed in that direction. So much like a tiller on a sailboat that can kind of remain, that's what this can do. So we can either set the trim like this and then put it back to 0 when we're done. And another useful feature my boats have is the hold heading function. Now, if there was no sail and you just have purely hold heading, well, what's going to happen is when you have wind and stuff, the rudders are automatically going to counter the wind effect. Now, we're going to use the hold heading function to actually help us in sailing, kind of like an automatic tiller control, if you will. But that's pretty much the basics and the introduction to this video. Now, if you're a sailor, I'm probably going to butcher all the terminology. I'm just going to use layman's terms for everything except for the graphic we see here. But you can see that depending on the direction of the wind here at the top, we can sail in a series of directions. Obviously, the run is just straight ahead, and then we can have a training run, which is a little bit at an angle. Looks like it's like 15%. Broad reach is like 45. Beam reach is fully perpendicular to the wind at a 90-degree angle, and then we could actually steer somewhat into the wind with the close reach and even more close hauled. Now keep in mind, you can't sail into the wind, it'll stop your boat, but you can move your masts, or your sails, pardon me, around and sort of zigzag towards the wind. Now I'm going to try that. It doesn't seem like it's easy, but maybe we can manage to do it. But these are the basic positions or points of sailing. With a wind of 40%, you could see that we have a direction of where the waves are kind of breaking. So if I just use my rudder and steer into them like this, and then open up my sails to give us the run configuration. So you saw here in the graphic that the front or jib sail is to the port and the mainsail is to the starboard. But first, we actually have to open them up. So, well, we could either open them up or we could position them. But the downside or the risk is that if we position them like this and I start to open this one, before I go and open this one, it's going to actually start to turn us. It'll steer. You have to consider how the wind is pushing into this sail, and it's actually going to steer us to the port. So look at that. We're actually steering quite fast in the port direction or left direction. Now I'm going to open up my jib sail here, and like I said, now there is a pivot on the front, and that's going to give us a bit more realistic kind of mast control in at both of these axes, rather than being both from the front of the boat. Now in this case we are sort of still not going purely with the wind, so I'm just going to use my rudder, position us in this direction, and throw on the hold heading. And let's open up the mainsail a little bit more. Now they're fully opened, so if I go here to the exterior view, they're blowing like this, and you can see that matches the graphic. Now we're picking up speed, we're going in that run direction, and I'm using the hold heading. Now if I want to start doing a training run, I will actually have to move my sails in the same direction. It's only in the run position where you want to have your two sails like on either side, on port and on starboard. For the rest of the configurations, you seem to always have them in the same direction, more or less. So in this case, we're kind of doing this. You can see the wind blowing, the little wind icon there, or wind sensor. Now let us release the hold heading and slightly turn the boat into a training run. And now I'm going to hold heading, but one thing that I have to do, you could see here, with the wind in this direction kind of coming straight down, right now I have to move my front sail or jib sail into the same direction here on the starboard, and I have to move them both in, so they're kind of more or less with the wind. Call it a little slight angle away from the wind. So let us quickly move that jib sail in the other direction, and you can see now it will go to the starboard side here, or to the starboard side, and we'll have it kind of slightly at an angle like this. And I actually want to move the mainsail slightly at an angle like this as well. So now if we go to the top view here, you can see that both sails are kind of in the same direction as the wind. You see the wind lines, and you see that my sails are picking up maximum amount of wind. And of course we're still using the rudder or the tiller, the hold heading function in essence, and it is allowing us to hit speeds of 11 knots in that kind of training run direction. Now if you let go of the hold heading, you'll see that it's actually going to start to push us even more into kind of like the broad reach direction. So if you're not using a tiller or your rudder and you see yourself moving like this, then you'll have to adjust the position of your sails. If you're not using that hold heading function, it will start to move off on you like this, and you can jump in and correct it like that, or you can adjust the sails. Now you saw that I kind of broadsided them. I put them into a direction where the sails in essence were in the direction more of the wind, and the more I put it like this, you could see the more we start to turn. So now I'm actually going something like the broad reach in the diagram, so we're moving even more at an angle, but we're still kind of being pushed by the wind. We're just more so now going at like probably like 45 degrees or something. Now I'm going to try for a beam reach. So we're going to now turn the rudder till we are going perpendicular to the wind, so you can see the wind lines, and I'm going to hit the hold heading, and now we have to move in the sails to the port. So I'm going to do that, and I'm going to do that, and you see that the sails in the diagram are still in the direction of the wind, but they are also in the direction, like they're not fully perpendicular to the boat. So they're not along the top of the boat as you'd imagine here and here. They're actually hanging out at an angle like this. And look at that. Even with the wind blowing fully perpendicular to us, we're still able to move in a forward direction. So we're using the wind, we're using the position of the sails, and we're moving forward, which is good. Now the boat is heeling over, not keeling over, heeling over, but you could see that we're at an angle because the wind is pushing us, kind of at a bit of an angle, but that's okay. As long as you don't fall off the boat, you maintain that forward direction. Now, we're going to try something more complicated. We're going to try to steer into the wind. So for that, we're going to turn off the hold heading, and I'm actually going to try to position the boat in the close reach direction, a little bit upwind. I'll turn on my hold heading now, and let's even pull in these slightly more. We'll leave the jib sail out a little bit like this, kind of like what the diagram was showing. And of course, this will slow down our progress, but I don't want to stop. I want to keep trying to sail in the upwind or close reach point or direction of sailing. So you can see from the wind sensor that we are traveling upwind. We're not going fully upwind, but we are still moving towards it, just not towards it fully. Now I will try to go a little even more upwind in kind of the close haul direction. It seems to be like a 45-degree angle into the wind type thing. Now let's move that jib sail even more like this. You can see they're picking up the wind, but we are faltering a little bit. So this is where and now it seems we're just being pushed sideways. So this is where my lack of skill is impeding me and impeding the progress here. So that's not really working. All right, but let's try to overcome. So let us turn this a little bit out. Now I do think that will pick us up speed in the direction we don't really want to be going. Let's see. Yeah, see, we're not moving upwind anymore. Upwind is that direction. So we really lost it now. And that's okay. That's sort of how this works, especially when you're learning something new. Can't really knock me too much on that. Now, this is where I use my engines and where I'm just going to put max power and reposition myself. Now, in this case, we are heading in the close haul direction. I'll turn my hold heading on so you can see we're moving upwind. And of course, if you do find yourself not able to sail in the direction you want, close your sails up, kick on your V8 engines, and off you go to the races. So that is an option to you. That's the nice thing about having these larger engines. You can see now we're pretty much sailing upwind, which you can't sail. So we're not sailing, we're motoring upwind. But I do want to try this close haul direction. So let's put it like this again. And let's see how I can position my sails. I'm just going to leave a very small forward throttle. Now this sail here, I can even move a little bit more like this. And the jib sail, they seem to be, that's pretty much what the diagram shows. Now if I cut power altogether, let's see if we can maintain momentum into the wind. Now you could see the wind direction with the wind lines is here. So there is obviously a lot of forward momentum from the engines that I was currently utilizing. So that's obviously going to affect our forward progress. Now it seems we are slowing. We kind of hit 6 and then 7 knots. But I do think we're still being kind of pushed. So in this case we are being, now we turned fully 90 degrees. So now we're going again on the beam reach. We're not going in the close reach or especially the close haul directions. So we did lose it. Now in this case, I'm powering towards the waypoint. I'm going 100% into the wind. I will try to turn the wind down. Maybe if it's too much of a wind, then you really can't use the wind power to go upwind because it just doesn't work that way. Anyway, let's try this. So let's see, I sit back here and let's put my sails out in this direction like this. That should give us get us a bit of an angle, and then let's turn the sails in this direction, and that should give us the, like, it should turn the boat overall. But you could see that it's not turning us nearly enough, so I'm going to push these, and if I do that, it's going to turn the boat even more. So then I try this side, and now I'm overcompensating on that in that direction based on the wind. So I guess if you're trying to sail anywhere in the no sail zone, the close hauled zone, maybe this isn't fast enough of a boat. I'd almost imagine you have to have a decent amount of momentum to zigzag back and forth, something that you probably can't do in something such as this. But I do think the two positions of the sails is helping us drastically versus my original design that grew in essence from the mast. So I do think this should be an improvement. Let me know in the comments what you think. I'm truly interested. But just from kind of a very basic knowledge here of sailing, I do really find it fun. I think it's quite enjoyable to try to use the wind power here to gain ourselves some forward momentum, and hopefully I haven't butchered this information too much, just kind of rather showing what I found. With the Catboat, which is a boat with one single sail, I imagine it's quite similar, but you end up losing some of your maneuverability because you're only using one single mainsail to propel, and therefore any direction you set it to is going to be severely going to impact the direction the boat goes. Whereas with the mainsail and jibsail configurations, you were able to actually position it in a way that was helpful and kind of fine maneuvering capabilities, if you will. So what I'm going to do, I'm going to turn the wind up again. Now there's no seat for me here, there is right here. Can I access both? Perfect. So with this seat I can access both, and you could see now the sail is turned sort of at a bit of an angle, very shallow angle actually. So I do think inevitably in this sense it will start to push us with the wind. You could see we're kind of merging in, and we're going to be going 100% downwind. Now I can open this up and catch even more of the wind like this, and you can see now we're actually steering, we're turning to the left or to the port. So you can see based on the direction of the wind, we're going probably like 30-40 degrees. So we are able to sail downwind but not just be pushed by it. We're now utilizing that wind power and traveling at a fairly good angle. Even it seems like we're wow, now we've hit probably closer to like 60 or 70. In fact, now we're going absolutely perpendicular to the wind. You could see the wind streaks, or kind of the wind that's blowing, and you could see the waves, and we are traveling now with the 100% in perpendicular, but I fear that we're going to come to a stop. So what I had to do, and you saw the sail lost its like the sail kind of got slack. So right now we're hitting that, we're slowing down because our mast was no longer our sail was no longer picking up wind. You could see the fabric, and now as long as you kind of keep the fabric stretched as you see it here, you're able to use it and gain forward momentum. So we've sped up drastically, and keep in mind the engines are not doing anything right now. So we're at 10 knots, and we're just going with perpendicular to the wind in this direction. Now if I do want to steer, I can move my rudder like this, or my sail, move my mast, move my mainsail, and we're still gaining that forward momentum. You can see how it's kind of collecting all that wind in there. So this is good, but now we are turning because I reduced the angle. So now we're steering more into the wind. And again, in this instant, I'm not even using my tiller at all, my rudders. We're purely using the sail to travel. Okay, so now we're going downwind in the run direction. Now if I open up this, it'll start to steer me again. So the downside with a catboat, or a boat with one single mast, is that you do have to kind of keep dancing with it, because you don't have two sails at your disposal as we did with the other style of sailboat. We were actually being pushed in a direction, and eventually we have to flip sides. Otherwise, what I just showed you in the first bit, where we were kind of steering, and then all of a sudden we pretty much stopped because the sail gained, or lost its lost what was kind of being collected, lost the wind in it. And again, I'm sure there's a term for that, but we're not talking about that here. So now with the catboat, now we're steering to the starboard. So you could see that we're hitting starboard fairly fast here. It's actually steering us quite quickly. Now if I want to go to that island, let's just say that's my ultimate destination, and I'll just let it steer a little bit more, and then I'm going to hit on my hold heading. And then what I do probably want to do is move the mainsail to the starboard and just see that I am going in the right direction. And it is nice to use this kind of helm, and I know that real sailboats have two helms, so the sail isn't in your way, but in this case it is useful because it's an elevated platform, and we're still going on that kind of broad reach direction. Now it seems that we actually have to steer more towards the island, so in that case, if I push this out here, that is actually steering us. Now I just have to be careful, make sure the sails remain taut, or whatever the proper terminology is there. Billowing, I'm not sure. Okay, we're kind of missing the island, but I do want to utilize the sails like this, because if I steer the sails more starboard, oh, and now we're going to smash into the island. So let's stop the hold heading. I'm going to turn my brake on, and I'd probably want to bring the mast to a position where it's no longer pushing us, or run up here and bring it in. But you could see that that little bit of angle change did change the direction of the boat enough that we've now hit this island. So what ended up, or what started off kind of being an exercise of using the tiller and the rudder, ended up being fine maneuvering with the actual mast and position of the sail itself, not the position of the mast. The mast stays there. The position of the sail, specifically with the mainsail and the boom here, or the arm. So we were able to get here. Anyway, this boat is maybe a little easier just because you only have one thing to deal with, but it's also a little bit more complex because you don't have the ability, or you have to make constant little changes. So now that we are sort of in the vicinity of this island, which is quite nice, so I want to do some fishing, relax, go into my cabin, whatnot, I can run down my anchor. See that when it's connected, this light's going to turn blue. So now we're connected, and we can just kind of anchor here off the island, make our way into the beautifully appointed cabin, turn on the fireplace, and wait out the storm. So thank you all for watching. I hope this video was entertaining. I hope it was informative. I hope I didn't butcher the art of sailing. I really do love it, and I have so much respect for all of those who gave me the advice, but also who do this on a daily basis. It's not easy. But I hope that with this video I can encourage some of you to try who are sort of scared or don't know how to make it work, and learn something new. Honestly, that's what life is all about. Anyways, thank you all for watching. Thank you to all of you. Thank you especially to my YouTube members, to my Discord server boosters, who kind of give me an extra little bit of support and motivation, and I really do appreciate it. I appreciate each and every one of you commenting, sending me information. I know I'm a newbie when it comes to sailing, but I still read all the comments and want to learn. Of course, I can't solely focus only on sailing, so keep in mind that I will read the comments, but I will eventually be moving on to other topics and other tasks. Regardless, it's fun to learn. So, thank you all for watching, and until next time, happy Stormworks, everyone.